I'm Caitlin from Follow the Camino. Today we're joined by Daniel from ReBalance Physiotherapy. He's going to talk us through some stretches and exercises to get you ready for the Camino and that you can do on the Camino to make sure that you stay injury-free the whole way along your journey.
The first of our beginner exercise in standing is going to be the squat. So this is to start to work the muscles on the front of the thighs and on the back of the hips. Great way to do this is stand in front of a chair. You sit back as if you're going to the chair, you lightly come down and touch it, and then stand back up again. You can have your arms hanging by the side, you can have them across your chest, it doesn't matter where they go. The main thing is that you sit back first, you come down just lightly touching the chair, don't sit or fall into it, make sure the last little bit you don't just collapse. So it's sitting down just to the edge of the chair and then standing up again. And feeling burnt muscles in the front and back here working. So the first of the intermediate exercise in standing is a lunge. So this is a progression of the squat we did on the chair. What you're going to do is take a big step forward. You're going to drop your back knee down to the floor. So your knee is at 90 degrees, your hip is at 90 degrees, and the other knee is at 90 degrees. And then you step up onto the front foot. This makes it harder because you're on one leg. So as you're standing back up, instead of using the two legs, you're using one leg to push yourself back up. And it's going to use the same muscles as before, the quads on the front and the glutes on the back. So you take a big step forward with the opposite leg next, you drop the other knee down to the floor, and then you step back up onto that front leg. So make sure you're doing 10 on the left leg and 10 on the right leg. So the first of our standing exercise for the advanced section is a progression of the lunge, and this time we need the chair back again. So you've been doing really well with the lunge. This one's a little bit more difficult. So you stand in front of the chair, you bring your back leg on top of the chair, and we're going to drop down into that lunge again until your front knee is at 90 degrees, and then you're going to stand back up. This time you're going to do 10 in a row on the right leg, and then you're going to switch around, bring your right foot onto the chair, balance comes in here, and then drop your right knee down, left knee comes to 90 degrees, and you stand back up again. So our progression here is we've gone from two legs onto one leg, and we've put even more weight onto the front leg using the chair to push us forward. The second exercise for our standing exercises is our deadlift, our hip hinge. What we're doing is we're working the muscles on the back of the thigh this time, so our hamstrings. So these are really important for when you're walking, either on a flat, and especially when you're going uphill, because these drag your body up the hill. So what we do for this is we get you to stand up, and we get you to bow forward at the hips, and then come back up. So as you bow forward, you're going to feel a stretch into the back of your thighs. Keep the back straight, keep the chest forward, and then stand back up again. And that's going to work the back of the legs. You're going to do 10 of them in total for 3 sets. So the second standing exercise in the intermediate section is the deadlift or the hip hinge on one leg. So again, balance comes into this. You stand on one leg, you bow forward from the hip, and you kick your back leg back, and then you stand back up. Between each one, you can put your foot down to gain your balance. But what we want to eventually get you doing is coming forward and back without your balance, getting shaky, and being able to do 10 in a row as you go through that. And then you're going to switch onto the other leg and do 10 in a row on that side. And then the second standing strength exercise for the advanced section is, again, it's the single leg deadlift or single leg hip hinge. So just like in the intermediate class, but what we're going to do is get you to stand on a pillow this time. So this starts to mimic walking on uneven surfaces. As the foot, or as the ground changes underneath your foot has to respond to that. So get a pillow at home, fold it over, a couple of cushions on top of each other, your yoga mat, fold it over a few times. You're going to stand on that, and your balance alone will be a bit difficult. That you feel the ankles starting to shake, and then you're going to bow forward from the hip, and again you're going to stand up. And again, you can place the foot down between each one to get your balance at the start, but eventually we want to get you doing 10 in a row without you placing the other foot down. You're then going to switch onto the left leg and repeat for 10 in a row on that side. So the first stretching exercise when we're standing is going to be for the quads at the front of the body. These are the muscles that lift you up out of a chair, that help lift your body up as you walk up hills and get you moving forward. So to stretch them, what we do is we come over to a wall to start for a little bit of balance, just fingertips on the wall. With your other hand, you grab the front of that ankle and you stretch the leg back, pulling the knee back as far as you can, and you feel a stretch along the front of the thigh here. To make it a little bit harder, you come away from the wall, you challenge your balance some more, and you grab the front of the ankle and you stretch your leg back. So you start bringing some balance into the left leg while we're stretching the right leg. You're going to hold each of those stretches for 30 seconds. So our second standing stretch is for our calves and the back of our legs here. These are the ones that push us forward. They stop us from falling forward as well by keeping us upright. To stretch these, you come over to a wall, 2 hands on the wall, bring one leg back and start to push your back heel into the floor. You should feel a stretch just below your kneecap. And what you'll feel is with the toes, you want to keep them pointing forward the whole time. So make sure you don't twist your feet out. Keep the 2 feet pointing forward like train tracks, leaning into the wall and pushing that back heel to the ground. 30 seconds on the right leg, and then switch over and 30 seconds on the left leg. So our first strength exercise we do when we're lying down is we place our hands underneath our lower back. So we feel a little arch in your back. Place your hands underneath there and then just push your back down into your hands. So you're going to feel the abdomen squeezing nice and tight. Squeeze your hands, bring your knees up over your hips one at a time, and you're going to tap your right leg off the floor and then your left leg off the floor. Nice soft taps like that. You're going to go back and forward for 10, 5 on the right leg, 5 on the left leg. The most important thing in this exercise though is you keep squeezing your back down. You keep your abdominal muscles here at the front contracted nice and tight. This is going to stop you from arching your back as you walk. So our first strength exercise for the intermediate and advanced sections are to place your hands underneath the low back. It's a progression of the toe taps we showed in the beginners. You're going to push your back down into your fingertips again. You're going to bring your knees up over your hips. You're going to straighten your legs to the ceiling as straight as you can get them. The hamstrings are a little tight. Keep the knees over the hips. And you're going to do little gentle flutter kicks backwards and forwards. Keep squeezing the back down the whole time. So you want to keep that pressure on your fingertips consistent. You don't want to let the back arch and the ribs to pop up. Keep the back down as flat as you can to the fingertips and put more strain onto the abs, and we're going to get those muscles working really hard. Our second strength exercise for the beginner's training plan is we're going to work our glute muscles on the back of our hips here. So to do this, we're going to lift the hips up off the floor and back down. Be careful though that you don't push your ribs out when you lift the hips up. So what we want to do is we want to roll the hips back, pull the rib cage down, roll the hips back and gently scoop them up off the mat and then reverse on the way back down. Imagine each vertebrae coming down one at a time and then relaxing the hips down. This is going to make sure we work the glutes and not the low back muscles. The second strength exercise in our intermediate training plan is to work our glutes, and we're going to do that on one leg to make it harder than the beginner plan. So we're going to bring one knee into the chest, one foot on the mat. We're going to roll the hips back and we're going to lift the hips up. So in the beginner's plan we had 2 legs lifting the hips up. Now we're going to lift up one. This is better obviously because there's more strain going through one muscle, but we can see asymmetries from left to right. So if one leg is weaker than the other, we'll be able to see that and we'll be able to work on the weaknesses in the body. So we want to do 10 on the right leg and then 10 on the left leg. The second strength exercise in our advanced training plan is to use a roller. So again, we're going to focus on our glutes. We're going to lift the hips up off the mat as before. We're going to have 2 feet on the roller this time. This starts to mimic the instability of when you're walking on uneven surfaces. So we want to prevent the roller from rocking side to side. So if the hands down either side on the mat, we roll the hips back and we lift the hips up. And then we roll back down again, one vertebrae at a time coming down to the mat. To make this harder, you can bring the hands onto the ribs, lifting up and then back down. So we're taking stability away from the upper body. And finally, we can cross the hands across the chest, lift the hips up and then roll back down again. Trying to keep the body nice and still as you lift up and trying not to rock side to side and don't fall off the roller. So our final stretch in all the training plans is to stretch out our low back. So as I said, when we walk, we tend to arch our back and put a lot of strain through the facet joints. So to stretch them out, we straighten the left leg down onto the mat. We bring the right hand out to the side, and with the left hand, we bring the right knee across the mat and roll down. You might feel a little pop in the low back. That's perfectly fine. That's just some nitric oxide being released from the facet joints. When they're under strain, they gather in nitric oxide. As you stretch them out, it releases it, and that's perfectly normal to hear a little pop there. Hold that stretch for 30 seconds. We come back towards the middle. We bring the left hand out to the side, the right hand onto the left knee, and then we stretch the left leg down onto the mat to the other side. Hold that for 30 seconds again, and then come back to the middle, and there are all your stretches.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video and that you find those exercises and stretches useful. If you'd like to learn more about the Camino de Santiago, please follow this channel and like this video. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram if you'd like to see more.